Here's my big question. This would be a steep learning curve to get into this functional programming. For me, anyway. Is it worth it?
Well, I mean, well, I hate to say it, but it depends. I mean, if you want to broaden your horizons, like thinking of our audience, if you want to broaden your horizons and kind of understand more about functional programming, it's definitely a thing to play around with and give it a try and see what you like about it, what you don't like about it. It's a kind of akin to that book. I think there was a book out, Learn So Many Languages in So Many Days or something.
Right.
So, I mean, having exposure to it is interesting. And then there are some languages that are more functional programming, more friendly to functional programming. And maybe you want to incorporate some, because again, they're paradigms as opposed to languages. So you could start using more of a functional style in JavaScript or in Python, for example.
Yeah.
As long as you're not going to get in trouble for doing that. But in terms of actually using it for a project, I would have to compare it against, again, I'm kind of falling back to the languages. So like Ruby's super fast for doing something basic, but if you have something very performance minded, or you're something that's going to be using a lot of cores or a lot of concurrency, maybe you would want to consider it.
Right. And I guess maybe that's a better way to ask my question more specifically. If I had a big Ruby project where load was a big deal, like where I work now, do you think it's a good idea to start looking at functional programming to scale, or to stick with the way we scale Ruby currently, which is, throw some more hardware at it, scale horizontally, more stuff like that? Or is Elixir, or something like Elixir, the functional programming paradigm itself, is that a good avenue to go down to solve scaling issues in web programming?
So I would probably not, if you are a Rails shop or a Ruby shop and all your experiences in that, I wouldn't change it. I would keep doing what you're doing and just maybe see if there's alterations you can do in how you're writing the Ruby to make it more performant, if that exists.
Mm-hmm.
Or apart from that, like, this is something I've done. Do I regret? I mean, part of it was done as an educational project, but it still exists in terms of my own application. But bringing up a microservice. So there was something specific that it was basically event tracking. And I know that can get a lot of traffic, all the events for something being fired in my application. So I actually wrote I'll call it a microservice using Elixir and Phoenix. So if you have one part of your application, like if you have this big monolith and you have one part that is experiencing pain, could you set up a microservice, and you're using a Ruby, could you set up a microservice on something faster? And I don't want to say it has to be a functional programming language. It could be anything that's faster. It could be Go, or I don't know if they call it Gopher or something. Anyway, it could be something written in Go or written in some other language that gives you that speed for that specific issue.
Yeah.
Generally, I wouldn't change it, but I guess the only consideration, I wouldn't move from Ruby, But basically, if all other avenues have been exhausted, or you want to try bringing something up as a specific microservice, then I could see choosing another language or framework to handle that.
If that particular service needed to be very highly performant or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
If you like this clip and want to watch another one, you can click right here. Or if you want to watch the full video, you can click here.